Hello everybody, coming back with another video about playing pub medic in TF2. This time I'm just going to talk quickly about what HUD I'm using, what in-game settings I'm using, and quickly which loadout I use. If you go to Options, Advanced Options, these first few tick boxes here are quite relevant to playing medic, and I think they're not normally turned on, so I'd recommend going in here and ticking these boxes. These two are pretty self-explanatory. Play a hit sound every time you injure an enemy, sometimes referred to as dinglings. Every time your needles hit an enemy, it makes a dinging sound, which is pretty useful for medic because there's a bit of a delay between firing a needle and actually connecting. And knowing if your needles are actually hitting someone is pretty useful because sometimes it's a bit ambiguous. You can't really see them disappearing into the distance. Display damage done as text over your target. Again, helpful for shooting needles, but this also displays the amount of healing you are doing to your healing target. And it shows the amount of damage your healing target is doing to enemies. So that's pretty useful. Remember the active weapon between lives, pretty self-explanatory. Useful for medic because the default weapon is syringe gun, and normally you would want to use the medigun. So that just prevents you having to switch weapon every time you respawn. There's a few medic-specific ones down here as well. I don't use this one. I prefer to just keep the mouse button click down on people. Again, I don't use this one because my HUD displays my healing target automatically, so I don't need that. This one is pretty useful. So this will show a little flashing red cross above injured teammates. And this is different to the kind of red cross in a white speech bubble you normally see when someone calls for medic. And it just lets you know, not everyone calls for medic, so it just lets you know who's injured. And you can respond to that a bit more efficiently if you know which of your teammates needs the heals. Okay, and if we just quickly switch over to loadout. Normally I would use the syringe gun. I don't use the overdose because I don't really have that much experience with it. It gives you a speed boost, which could be pretty useful for getting away from enemies in a tricky situation. The crossbow I'm a big fan of. It's very difficult to kill people with the crossbow, but you can heal your teammates at long range. So if a soldier's rocket jumped onto, say, the spire on Badlands and you can't quite get to him, you can fire an arrow at him and do a lot of healing that way. Now, if you use the crossbow and the amputator as your melee weapon, you get a item set bonus, and that bonus is +1 health regenerated per second, which can be very useful. Just self-healing, survivability, all the rest of it. The Blutsauger is quite the opposite. You get -2 health drain per second on wearer. So for that reason, I'm not a fan of the Blutsauger, unless you're in a pub with a lot of players who are not really looking and you end up in situations where you have to use your needles a lot. I don't think this is a very useful weapon. A lot of people would disagree with me on that, but that's how I feel about it. I mean, it's up to you how you play. Medigun is pretty much the bread and butter of the medic. The Kritzkrieg is great for defending, playing on small maps like King of the Hill, where you die a lot, or you can output a lot of damage with a Kritzkrieg. If you've got a good demo man soldier heavy on your team, very useful. The quick fix, I think, is quite the opposite. I very rarely use the quick fix, and when I do, it will just be for a bit of a laugh. If there's a lot of scouts on my team, like I mentioned previously, using the quick fix is great because it gives you a speed boost. If there's another medic on your team, it can be quite useful just for making sure everyone is healed up as quickly as possible. Those are the only two main situations I think is a valid weapon to use. Now I'm going to go in-game quickly and show you what my HUD looks like. I'm going to log into the Reddit server. Okay, this is what my HUD looks like. This is called the PV HUD. If you just Google PV HUD, you'll be able to find it pretty easily. There's instructions on how to download it. It's pretty straightforward. The reason I like this one is because it has quite a large bar in the bottom right hand corner showing you what your Uber charge percentage is. So it's very easy to just relay that information to your teammates or just see it for yourself. Now if you notice when I'm healing someone, it has a nice little box here that says who I'm healing, how much health they have. The box is very easy to see, like how much health they have, how much they're overhealed. Now some things that people don't really know about or don't use very much is changing the view model field of view and changing or disabling view models entirely. So if I do this, it gets rid of your view model entirely, which some people find quite confusing, but if you actually look at the amount of screen that I've freed up, I can see a lot more of the screen now, which is incredibly useful. As a medic, you're going to be having spies coming up on you, you're going to have scouts trying to jump on you, and soldiers trying to jump at you. So being able to see a little bit more of the screen makes you a little bit more aware of the dangers that are coming towards you, which is very useful. To turn it on and off, the console command is R_draw view models. Now you can also, if you don't want to get rid of it entirely, you can also change the view model field of view. So if you draw view model _FOV, let's change it to 50 for example. Now that moves the view models a lot closer to the screen. And if you change it to 90, it moves it a lot further away from the screen. So if you fiddle around with that as much as you like and try and find something that is comfortable for however you like to play. I mean, it takes up different amounts of the screen, takes up different parts of the screen. Whatever you find works for you, really. And that was view model _FOV that I changed there. And now I'm just going to try and find someone to shoot at so I can show you what dinglings sound like. Aha, there you go. So you see the dinging sound, and you also get the numbers that correspond to how much damage you're doing appearing up there above their head. So that was just a quick introduction into how I use my setup, what I find most useful to me. Just play around with the information I've given you, try and find what suits you best. This is what I find is easiest, to be honest. So I'm quite happy to answer any questions that you have and see what you find is easiest for you. Maybe you've got a better HUD, maybe you've got a better way to set up your view models. Let me know. See you next time.